Bună seara! O nouă demonstrație de forță sau de slăbiciune a Rusiei este tema emisiunii din această seară. Moscova pretinde că a mobilizat peste 200.000 de soldați din Rusia și din Belarus pentru ZAPAD 2021, un exercițiu cu sute de tancuri, zeci de avioane, zeci de nave de luptă și tunuri, sisteme de rachete, plus roboți cu mitraliere și lansatoare de grenade. L-am invitat pe Mykhailo Samus, director New Geopolitics Research Network de la Kiev, să intrăm în spatele liniilor inamice și să aflăm ce ar putea urma. Mykhailo are o carieră excepțională în forțele armate ucrainene, este un contribuitor de excepție pentru jurnalismul și pentru comentatorii de geopolitică din regiunea noastră. Aliații NATO și partenerii săi care se învecinează cu Rusia și Belarus sunt îngrijorați de noile manevre ale forțelor ruse în toate domeniile, terestru, maritim, aerian și cibernetic de asemenea. Good evening, Mykhailo. So, what is all about with this type of exercises?
Good evening. First of all, thank you for inviting me to participate in your great program and share my thoughts about the developments in the situation. About exercise, strategic exercise, ZAPAD, I should say that this type of exercise Russia is conducting since 1977. Originally, it was strategic exercise for Warsaw Pact and Soviet Union to organize the strategic offensive, or they like talking about the counteroffensive strategic operation against NATO. Since that time, this exercise conducted a lot of times, and after the collapse of Soviet Union, first exercise, ZAPAD, was conducted in 1999, and it was the reason because of creation of a union between Russia and Belarus, and they renew this strategic type of exercise on the Western strategic direction, try to prepare for strategic operations against NATO. Since 1999, Russia and Belarus usually conducted this exercise every 4 years. And of course, the most popular and most famous, I would say, exercise was conducted in 2017. After the Russia started aggression against Ukraine and annexed Crimea and occupied part of the Donbass. That exercise was very prepared for real full-scale operations by Russia and Belarus against NATO forces, against Poland, against Baltic states and Ukraine as well, on the situation when Russia actually has broken the peaceful development of European nations since collapse of Soviet Union. So I would say that 2017 was a new start of ZAPAD exercises. After the 2017, a lot of changed till now. First of all, Russia built a huge infrastructure, military infrastructure around Ukraine. They created, for that time, 3 new armies. It's a first-time army with headquarters close to Moscow, the 20th Army with headquarters in Voronezh, and 8th Army close to Rostov in Novocherkassk. Actually, this 8th Army, this is the framework to manage of the occupied forces in Donbass. The 1st and 2nd Army Corps from the occupied forces, they actually managed by headquarters of 8th Army in Russia close to Novocherkassk, which is very important to understand what's going on in Donbass and how Russia organizing the occupation forces in territory of Ukraine.
In which way is ZAPAD 2021 different than the previous exercises? You have displayed a couple of details about the organization, the new Western District military organization of the Russian armed forces, but which are the new dimensions of the current exercise that we should expect and we should follow after that?
ZAPAD 2017 anyway was generally focusing on Poland and Baltic states. The whole scenario with pretty famous faking states like Vaishnoria, and all of activities during this Zapat 2017 was focusing on Poland and on very fast strategic operation against Poland. Suwalki Gap, it's a small territory between Poland and Baltic states and Kaliningrad Oblast. So Russia is going to occupy this Suwalki Gap to divide and to cut Baltic states from another NATO countries. During Zapat 2017, it was the main scenario. Now we see that even the open published scenario, very similar to Zapat 2017, we analyzing the differences that Russia is going to make on the Belarus territory to develop new air defense system, a new aviation, new special forces, new missile system, and new reconnaissance and intelligence systems, which is actually providing new activities on the Ukrainian direction. Lukashenko told that he's trying to get a new air defense system S-400, especially to he told that especially for fighting with threats from the Ukrainian territory. He told it like a couple days ago. So this is a difference that Russia and Belarus trying to build new military infrastructure and planned operations, not only against NATO, but against Ukraine as a part of the full picture. Because I personally participated in 2017 in one wargaming in Poland, and we understand that if Ukraine will participate together with Poland and Baltic states in defense against Russian forces and Belarus forces in scenario kind of Zapat 2017, Russia won't have any chances to have a success. So I think that Russia understood the same and trying to build the military infrastructure and planned operations, counting that Ukraine could participate in defense and joint operations with Poland, Baltic states, and other NATO countries.
Do you think that these new equipment, tactics, and scale displayed by the Russian armed forces, together with the Belarusian forces, and the rest of the establishment of the Union of Russia and Belarus should worry us? Do you think there are motives for us to worry about what is happening?
For Ukraine, it's definitely the problem because during the exercises in April, May this year, Russia collected kind of 150,000 troops around Ukrainian eastern borders and in the occupied annexed Crimea. We analyze a lot of new tactics and new technologies in Russia, try to study and try to use in operations from occupied annexed Crimea. For example, they transferred the traditional airborne divisions, airborne brigade, to so-called new type light air mobile brigades and regiments, with using not strategic airlifting, but rather the light multifunctional helicopters. It means that a new tactics, especially for Ukraine, because if we're talking about the Belarus territory and border between Belarus and Ukraine, we have a not very good, let's say, military geography there. There's swamps, forests, and it's very difficult to conduct military land operations. But airborne operations, especially with light air mobile units without heavy armor vehicles and using the multifunctional helicopters, I think it will be pretty effective from Belarus territory. So Russia could deploy these light air mobile units on the border between Belarus and the Ukraine and use it. Talking about NATO, I think definitely NATO should be aware on these exercises, because Russia in this scenario tried to cut the Baltic states from another NATO countries and try to attack Poland before NATO countries will decide to help Poland. So scenario is the same. Try to divide NATO countries in making decision process to help Poland and Baltic states. And I think the Kremlin understand that this is the main purpose of this operation, strategic operation. Do not defeat or do not attack, let's say, Western countries like Germany or France, but of course to destroy NATO by dividing NATO countries in the making decision process during the attack against Poland and Baltic states, maybe Ukraine, maybe some operations in Black Sea. Because when we're talking about Zapat 2021, we shouldn't think that it's only operations on the northern and western part of Russia and Belarus. It's again the operations in the south part. It's operations in the western part of Russian air forces, Russian airborne forces, and Russian naval forces again, which is actually is a threat for Romania and a threat for Ukraine, definitely.
Well, I think you have displayed the massive dimension of this exercise, but why does the authority in Moscow think that the next operation, the next military intervention would be at the western borders of Belarus and maybe the western borders of the Union of the Russia and Belarus? Why do you think they prepare for such a theater of war at one point in time?
To be clear, Russia is conducting this exercise every 4 years, and between this Zapat exercises, they conducted another type of strategic exercise on different strategic directions, like East, Vostok, like the central part of Russia and the Central Asian directions, and it's a Kavkaz exercise. So they have 4 types of exercise on different strategic directions, and in all of these exercises, they concentrated like 150, 200,000 of troops on each directions, trying to develop the logistics, trying to prepare forces for huge movement from western borders to eastern borders, from central part to Kavkaz, from Kavkaz to northern part and western part. So this is not only the focusing on the western area or western directions, but of course, definitely, Zapat, this is the most famous exercise because of the military, political, and geopolitical meaning of this exercise since 1977, as I told. Of course, the Soviet Union, he planned the exercises all of this time on different strategic directions, but Zapat was the most famous. And what I should say that Zapat always, since 1977, this is the exercise not only for movement of the forces, on the concentration of the forces, but this is an exercise for studying a new strategic and new tactical rules of the battle. For example, in 2021, they tried to apply a new network-centric warfare strategy and tactics, using the UAVs, using the all of these automatic command and control systems to make not a 20th century battle, but 21st century battle on the ground. I think this is the most dangerous for NATO and for Ukraine if Russia will use a network-centric warfare together with UAVs, with electronic warfare. It will be very difficult to defense on these attacks. Look at the Nagorno-Karabakh last year. It was absolutely great illustration. What is the difference between 20th century Soviet type of armed forces, it's Armenian armed forces, and 21st century Azerbaijan armed forces using network-centric warfare with huge number of UAVs, attack UAVs, intelligence UAVs, and putting together all of armed forces, all of sensors, all of effectors, all of weapons, and all of commanders to one system, which is acting in a real scale of time and real making decision process to attack and to destroy enemies. The commanders in network-centric warfare, they have information every second, and they are ready to destroy enemy every second with very, very great effectiveness. In different, you saw the Armenian armed forces try to use the old tactics, old strategy, and it was absolutely impossible to fight with new type of network-centric warfare of Azerbaijan.
Ok, luăm o foarte scurtă pauză, revenim în contraofensivă cu Mykhailo Samus de la Kiev. Stați cu noi! Am revenit cu Mykhailo Samus de la Kiev, comentator, analist și un jurnalist de excepție în privința exercițiului Zapat 2021. Mykhailo, what do you think about the counteroffensive dimension of the exercise that we witnessed together? Do you think it is something of great importance when we look at the offensiveness of these types of exercises?
Again, it's an old Soviet tradition talking about the counter-offensive operations. Since 1977, they always Zapat exercise were conducted with the same scenario, very similar scenario on of course, the published scenario. It was kind of the bad Western countries, they attacked good Soviet Union, and of course, after some defensive operations, Soviet Union together with Warsaw Pact countries, they made counter-offensive operations, and of course had a victory on the bad Zapat, bad West. Actually,
bad West. Yeah. Do you think the Zapat 2021 would result in a more integrated armies of Russia and Belarus? Do you expect that?
I think so, because since 2017, a lot of changed inside of Belarus. In 2017, Lukashenko tried to play some peacekeeper, and if you remember, Minsk was a place when Russia and Ukraine negotiated the Donbas issues, and actually Minsk agreement was signed in Minsk. And Lukashenko was a host of all of these meetings together with Merkel, together with Hollande and other leaders of the Western countries. So in that time, Lukashenko tried to play some, Mediterranean neutral part, and even during Zapat 2017, Lukashenko told several times that Belarusian armed forces never will cross the border. So they will help to Russians, for example, in defensive operations, but when we're talking about counter-offensive or offensive operations, Russian armed forces will cross the border with Poland, with Baltic states, with Ukraine, without any Belarus soldier aircraft or any other Belarusian equipment. So now I think the situation totally changed, because Lukashenko now is a non-recognized president in majority of the countries, and of course, Ukraine and NATO countries, European Union countries, and Lukashenko now is under the sanctions after very bad reaction on the democratic process in Belarus last year, and after situation with this Ryanair aircraft by Belarus security forces. So I think that now Lukashenko doesn't have any choices on any other solutions as give to Putin all of possible support and all of possible, let's say, opportunity to use not only Belarus territory but Belarus armed forces.
So you basically you're saying that Lukashenko has no real interest, but he is forced to accept this type of Russian involvement and Russian influence in dealing with the security issues of Belarus and Russia from years to come.
Yeah, sure. Lukashenko, more than 20 years, actually 25 years, trying to dance in on geopolitical dance and balancing between Russia and Europe and West. Actually, every period of 3-4 years, Lukashenko changed the vectors from Moscow to Brussels and Washington. But of course, it was not real trying to be closer to West, but the bargaining with Moscow on some gas prices or better economical conditions for Belarus export, or getting money from Kremlin, etc. This time, really, Lukashenko doesn't have any choices and any possibility for this maneuver and for this balancing. So Putin now is, I think, make a request for Lukashenko to be closer military issues, and Russia actually started to use military, Belarus military forces, sending to Belarus new aircrafts under the cover of project of joint patrolling of the Belarus airspace. They created created the new joint training center for air defense and air force. So Russian aircraft already arrived last month to Belarus, talking about the joint training missions. But I think it could be like non-officially military base, air force base by Russia in Belarus, so non-officially proclaimed Air Force base. I think that Lukashenko now absolutely different from Lukashenko in 2017, and that's why Russia will use military forces of Belarus in full scale.
Yeah, before
as much as possible.
Before the ZAPAD 2021 started, we saw Lukashenko visiting Moscow, having the fifth meeting with the Russian president for this year alone. Are there any other specific areas where Belarus could have a greater dependence on Russia after these high-level meetings that we noticed?
Talking about military aspects, I think that since 1997, when Russia and Belarus created a union between two countries, actually, we are in Ukraine always talking about that from that time, during the preparation for conflict, Russian armed forces will control Belarus armed forces. So since 1997, Belarus was integrated in military sense to Russian armed forces. But talking about another aspects, I would say that the main interest of Kremlin now and Putin and his oligarchs, this is the economy, the access to do pretty nice pieces of Belarus economy, and they are waiting for this chance to get it for free. Actually,
yeah, you think of buying some companies or investing in the Belarusian economy or taking advantage of the Belarusian state companies. You think in that way or other way?
Yeah, I think it will be a process of so-called transit of the authorities of power. I think they will try to create so-called democratic changes in Belarus to transfer from a strongly presidential country or system in Belarus to parliament. Maybe it won't be a real parliament, but kind of parliament republic with Russian political projects inside of the Belarus political space. And through this parliament republic, parliament system, they will try to get during the privatization, because Belarus didn't have any privatization process for these 30 years after the collapse of Soviet Union compared to Ukraine and Russia, for example. So they will have chance to get this all of these plants and good companies, Belarus good companies, actually for free during this privatization, because of course Belarus doesn't have any people with capital or money enough to buy some companies. So for Russians, it will be very cheap and very comfortable privatization. But one thing, what is the bad news for Lukashenko and not very good news for Putin. When they started this process, it was like 5 years ago, and it was step by step. And of course, Lukashenko tried to balance, as we talked before, not trying to give up with Russian oligarchs. But after these strong and sanctions against Lukashenko and modern Belarus, it's very difficult to Russia to when they will get these plants and this Belarus businesses to have a profit from this, because all of these plants under these sanctions. So what is the sense of what is the reason to get these plants and after this to be under the sanctions? So I think the whole strategy of Russians, of Kremlin, is to change the situation and to change the to shift Lukashenko from the power.
You say to try to replace him with somebody who is more appealing to the West as well.
I think not so simple. I think it will be step-by-step process. First of all, they will try to change the change the constitution and make a parliamentary republic with strong parliament, and step by step to make Lukashenko less influenceable. And I think Lukashenko will, of course, against it, but it won't be any chances for him to avoid this process. And after this, when the parliament, together with new strong political parties financed by Russians, change the whole system, they will conduct new elections and will have the new president, but it won't be influential, like president with the same authority and the same instruments like Lukashenko. It will be just a symbolic president, and parliament will be the most strong the instrument in the hand of Russians, actually.
Yeah, Mykhailo, I would like to talk more on these potential forms of creating a union between Russia and Belarus after a very short break. Luăm o pauză, rămâneți cu noi, mai avem de discutat despre posibila aprofundare a Uniunii Rusia-Belarus. Am revenit cu Mykhailo Samus, directorul New Geopolitics Research Network din Kiev. Mykhailo, what is your assessment on the impact of the possible new energy union between Russia and Belarus? Would this common energy market affect Ukraine, Poland, and the Baltics, and how?
I'm not sure that exactly the joint energy market or joint energy projects by Belarus and Russia will affect our countries, because it will have mostly internal effect on Belarus situation, and it looks like Kremlin will show to Belarusian people that Kremlin supporting Lukashenko and Belarus in tough times. When look at the European market, when we have a $700 per 1,000 cubic meters, in Belarus it will be like $150 or $200 per 1,000 cubic meters. So it will show to another post-Soviet countries that you see, compare Belarus and Ukraine. Ukraine will get the expensive European gas, and Belarus will get the Russian gas for like 4 times cheaper, and of course it will be better for Belarus economy. In reality, I think it will be the only show and for external viewers. I think, I think it will be the support for Belarus part of economy, and try and continue our conversation before that. Russian oligarchs will try to get Belarus plants, and of course for them this cheap gas will be more profitable when they use Belarus companies, Belarus plants in own interests. So I think this joint energy market will be in favor of Russian oligarchs trying to transfer their influence on Belarus economy. Talking about our countries, I think Russia is conducting more wide operations, trying to use Northern Stream 2, Northern Stream 2nd, and cut off gas supply through Ukrainian territory to overheat the European market and make prices like $1,000 for 1,000 cubic meters before winter, and trying to to show that guys, if you'd like to get a cheaper gas, if you'd like to have a not $1,000 per 1,000 cubic meters, but maybe 500, maybe 300, you should allow us to avoid European rules for Northern Stream 2 as you request now when this Northern Stream 2 started to work. And I think it shows that Biden administration, I think, made a mistake when they allow making good for Germany and Merkel. Personally, they allow to Russia to build up this Northern Stream 2 pipeline, and now Russia is trying to blackmail Europeans to change their position and to change their decisions against this Northern Stream 2. And because European Union, they decided the Northern Stream 2 should be under the European rules of European market supply and gas. It means that only 50% of the gas going, so the volume of the gas going through Northern Stream 2 not be more than 50% of the planned by Russians.
Our countries already pay a heavy price for the natural gas imported from Russia. I think Romania and the eastern flank of NATO, probably Ukraine as well, are paying 5 times more the same price compared to the Belarusian imports in terms of natural gas imported from the Russian Federation. So we are all already paying a differentiated political price. Do you have confidence that the arrangements between United States, Germany, and the Russian Federation regarding the transit of the natural gas through Ukraine will bear some results, will give you at least some comfort that some part of the transit will still go from Russia to the west through Ukraine?
You see, I'm sure that Russia already using this gas weapon against Ukraine and European countries, and I'm sure that Russia will use every possible, every possibility, every possible instruments to attack Ukraine, attack Europe with gas. Even it's very difficult to find the facts that Russia is doing this with some intentions, because if you say now that Russia, that the prices in the European market is the result of Russian policy, Russia will say we don't know what are you talking about, and it's very difficult to have some the fact that it's Russia steps to make these prices so high. So I'm sure that after this deal, I mean, between United States and Germany, talking about Russian gas for Ukraine and for some countries in Eastern Europe will be tough times, because anyway, Russia will use this situation against these countries to show to another countries that everybody who trying to act against Russia will pay very, very high prices, and they will be under constant attacks by hybrid means, because natural gas pipelines in the hands of Russians, this is the very, very concrete example of hybrid warfare. I was really very surprised by Biden administration. They signed this agreement because it was so clear that exactly after the signing of this agreement, when Merkel will get out from the office, Russia will use in full scale any opportunities and all of possibilities to use gas as a hybrid weapon.
So basically you are saying that in the aftermath of the ZAPAD 2021, we should expect another set of provocative maneuvers from Moscow, be it militarily or politically, along our borders, along your borders as well?
I think that after the ZAPAD 2021 and of course the State Duma elections, it will be some the changes on the political balances, not of course in the Kremlin yet, but on the like say high level, but be under the Kremlin level in Russia. And of course Russia will try to use all of opportunities. To be honest, after Afghanistan and after the signing the Nord Stream 2 agreement between the United States and Germany, Kremlin and Putin personally understood it like a victory of Russian geopolitics, because in all of means, if we're talking about the Afghanistan, of course, I personally think that this is the only start of the process, and geopolitically, Afghanistan will be a problem for Central Asia and for Russia very soon. But now, in this concrete period of time, Putin understands it like a victory, and he will use this victory to start more and more intensive hybrid attacks against our countries. In Ukraine and Romania, I think is the first line of these attacks. In the Black Sea, this is gas attacks, this is informational attacks, this is energy attacks. All of possible means Russia will use it. And I predict that, I will say that during this winter, the gas weapon Russia will use with new effectiveness, because it will affect not only Eastern Europe, but I think that the whole European market, the whole new gas European market, and it could be a geopolitical catastrophe for European Union if it will be an energy catastrophe this winter created by Russians.
Well, after NATO left Afghanistan in the conditions that we have all of us remarked in the last couple of weeks, do you think the NATO attention for the Black Sea could be revived, could be stimulated somehow? And how do you think that NATO could respond to the Russian military buildup in the Black Sea?
To be honest, I'm very critical toward NATO activities after 2014 in Black Sea. Always when I'm talking about the NATO and Black Sea, I'm using these words, leadership and responsibility. I think that NATO should or has to issue responsibility and leadership and take leadership in this region, because unfortunately for these days, Russia is the leader of region, and Russia is creating the schedule for Black Sea countries, for Romania, for Ukraine, for Bulgaria, for Turkey. Turkey, of course, playing own game, but Turkey is not. It's not the same like Romania and Ukraine. Turkey is playing, trying to be a leader, a regional leader in different vectors like Central Asia, Middle East, Mediterranean. The Ukraine, Romania, and Russia, and different understanding and specific constructed, specific design policy toward these directions. Talking about Ukraine and Romania, I think in situation when NATO, unfortunately, avoiding taking leadership in the region, trying to take responsibility of the developments in this region, I think Ukraine and Romania should be closest partners in building own navies and building own navy capabilities. Because if NATO creates a common and joint unit in Black Sea, if NATO creates a special command, NATO command in Black Sea, it will be a different situation. Because I think that just paying visits NATO ships to Black Sea, it's not enough to change the balance of the forces. This visit is pretty good. It's showing that NATO is monitoring the situation, but it looks like NATO is not trying to change the balance. Without changing the balance of the forces in this region, in Black Sea, it's impossible to talk that Russia will change their own strategy. And now Russia is trying to totally control Black Sea and create a Russian lake in Black Sea. And I think Russia, unfortunately, is pretty successful in this strategy and this goal, because now we have the total A280 zone. So it's air defense and missile control of all of Black Sea and regions region around the Black Sea. And of course, Russia has totally advantages advantages in ships and submarines. They have 6 submarines with caliber cruise missiles with a range of 2,500 kilometers. They have approximately 200 missiles together in one salvo against Ukraine, Romania, and other countries around Black Sea. Compared to Ukraine, for example, we still have only 1 division of new Neptune cruise missiles enter into the service this year. Before this year, we didn't have any cruise missiles. So only this year, Ukraine started to change the balance, but by landing forces in the Navy. I hope that next programs, we have now 4 programs for Ukrainian Navy. It's a United States program for Mark 6, 16 Mark 6 small ships, with United Kingdom for 8 missile small ships for Ukrainian Navy, with Turkey for 4 corvettes, other class with pretty good equipment. And of course, we have our programs with Neptune cruise missiles and Bayraktar Turkish UAVs, attack UAVs, and Akinci Turkish. Actually, it's a joint Ukrainian-Turkish heavy attack UAV with Ukrainian engines. So I think of course, it couldn't be enough for changing the balance. So I'm sure that Ukraine and Romania should act together if NATO won't participate more actively in changing balance. Just visiting it's not enough.
Ok. Mai luăm o foarte scurtă pauză, revenim, pentru că evenimentele politice care se apropie s-ar putea să schimbe balanța de putere și în Marea Neagră și dincolo de ea. Stați cu noi. Am revenit cu Mykhailo Samus, directorul New Geopolitics. Mykhailo, we have a couple of figures we would like to comment together. According to a Levada Center public opinion poll published by the Radio Free Europe, 84% of the Russians were thinking in 2014 that Russia has enemies. In 2020, just last year, 82% of them were thinking the same. While the United States is perceived the first of the biggest enemy, Ukraine is second. Why? What would be the conditions to change that perception?
I think that the whole Putin strategy is to create enemies around Russia. And actually, if you're talking about all of these feelings of Kremlin inside why they has a behavior like this. They try to be a geopolitical leader and try to renew the place of the major state and try to make United States, European countries to allow Russia to participate, how they told it, the World Orchestra. Because Putin dreams, this is sitting on the round table together with President of the United States, with the Prime Minister of UK, with the President of France, Chancellor of Germany, and trying to make decisions about the destinies of the world. This is the great dream of Putin as an emperor of the new Russian empire. It's not a joke, it's reality. And when he is conducting this strategy, for example, the situation in Afghanistan after withdrawing of Russian forces, he perceived it like a victory by Russia. When he looking at the gas market, he perceiving it in Europe. He's perceiving it like a victory for Russia and the chance to propose to major countries to sit to round table and discuss these questions together with Syria, together with Middle East, together with climate changes, and he tried to propose them to solve all of these problems because he has some instruments. He acting like like a racket bandit. He created problems and after this try to sell the solutions of this.
Apparently those problems are only outside Russia. What about internal problems? On Sunday, Russians elect their representatives in the State Duma. Would it be another missed opportunity for the Russians to change the course of their own country? Or is the opposition in Russia strong enough to significantly change and challenge, why not, the Putin's regime?
I think the Putin regime now is very, very strong, and I think in reality they killed all of opposition, even underground, because it's even compared to Soviet Union. I think the Putin regimes, they more cynical and more strong in using all of possible instruments. And look at the Belarus. I think that Putin regime is not different from Lukashenko. They will kill all of people who is trying to protest against Putin, and of course together with propaganda, together with the absolutely total influence of informational instruments on Russian brains, talking about that only Putin could support the status of great Russia in this dangerous world, when the United States trying to be a main country in the world, but Russia will fight against it. Russia has a special role, a special place in this world, and will help all of country who is trying to fight against United States dominance in this world. It sounds like crazy, but it's reality in Russia now. I think unfortunately, Russian citizens, even they want to live in normal democratic country, now unfortunately they don't have any chances to change this regime. Maybe after Putin and after the Russian oligarchs will try to find a new configuration of ruling Russian state, will be created new opposition. Maybe new generation of Russian people will create a new opposition and will try to build a new Russia. But unfortunately, not this time.
It's not the case for now. But do you think Putin prepares Russia for a kind of transition?
Yeah, a lot of rumors about the transition, about the transit of the power. Sometimes I'm sure that the majority of these versions created by Kremlin and by Putin administration. But sure, they should think about how they will deal in case of Putin health problem. They should the people, the oligarchs, his friends, should think about this possibility that Russia could be on their Russia. I mean, their regime could be under dangerous when Putin disappeared physically from this system. And I think that they try to prepare some balancing systems with different group of influence, and to build strong balanced system even when Putin will be out of the system. I think this is the main purpose of this transit. It's not a transit from one Putin to another leader, but rather from Putin to the collective balancing council with different representative of different oligarchs group to rule this territory, Russian territory, after the Putin will disappear. When this new system will be functional, it's very difficult to say, because a lot of rumors, a lot of variants we see. Anyway, I'm sure that we will see it very soon, that Russia will have some problems, because I personally don't believe that Russian oligarchs with so different interests will find some friendship with each other without Putin as a balancing figure. I hope and I'm sure that it will be a collapse of this system, and Russian oligarchs will fight each other, and Russian people will have chance to change this totalitarian regime to normal democracy.
Mykhailo, thinking about a possible provocative measure, do you expect in Donbass, in other areas currently illegally occupied by the Russians or their proxies, to have a kind of election process for this next Duma for the Russian Federation?
They didn't have officially, of course, the election, because Russia officially talking about that they don't know about this conflict, anything. They know that this is Ukrainian internal problem, so Russia officially doesn't participate in the conflict, you know. But trying to help, as I told, trying to help people who support Russia, they gave them the Russian citizenship. The kind of 600,000 Russian passports were shared in the Donbass, in the occupied Donbass, and they will propose these people to participate in elections. And I'm not sure that the points for elections could be created only on the Russian territory. They could create so-called mobile points for elections in the occupied territories to make these passports to elect a new State Duma. The main interesting point is nobody knows how many exactly these passports were shared among occupied territories. So it's possible to say that 2 million of people voted for Единая Россия party, or 3 million, or even more. Nobody will count it in reality.
Thank you very much, Mykhailo. It has been quite an extended interview with a lot of insights from your side. We expect you in one of our future editions as well.
Thank you very much for inviting. It was absolutely great interview and very interesting questions. I just liked it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rămâneți în continuare cu noi, o analiză deosebită pe care am urmărit-o împreună cu Mykhailo Samus, dar putem să adăugăm la această analiză și cele mai recente contribuții din partea Monitorului Apărării și Securității. A apărut numărul 10 al revistei Monitorului Apărării și Securității, în care veți găsi articole despre ieșirea din Afganistan, modul în care NATO își proiectează viziunea 2030, România cât de mult poate să contribuie și cât poate să primească din partea Alianței Nord-Atlantice. Găsiți această revistă în format digital, exclusiv la editura Mediafax. Vă mulțumesc pentru seara aceasta. Ești pe Alev News și ești bine așa.